Oh, hello there. Curious about the top 9 things to do in Japan? Stay tuned to this video to find out.
Now, looking into the camera. Sally.
Alright, good morning and welcome back to the channel. So, I am back after an incredible 2-week trip through Japan. I was in Tokyo, in Kyoto, and Sapporo, as many of you probably know if you've been following the channel. But I'm back home now in the United States, in sunny California, even though it is still quite cold here. I am in very heavy clothing because it is still winter here in the Northern Hemisphere. My 2-week trip through Japan was absolutely incredible. I loved every second of it. I'm already itching to go back. And so I thought I would put together a video about some of my top experiences to do, top foods to eat when you're in Japan, traveling through some of the places that I was traveling. Give you my top 9 experiences to do in Japan, foods to eat in Japan, give you guys a little bit of insight if you are considering traveling there. And at the end of the video, we'll talk a little bit about what you need to get into Japan right now from a COVID standpoint and what the immigration process was like getting into Japan, landing in Tokyo at Narita Airport, things you need, the documents you need, what you need to get into Japan right now. All right, but if you're just tuning into the channel for the first time, welcome. My name is Nick. I'm the creator behind Travel Far, Eat Local. I make videos about travel and food, the intersection between them. So before we get started, please consider giving this video a big thumbs up. Hit that notification bell at the bottom of the video to be the first to be notified when my new videos come out, and please consider subscribing to the channel if you're not already. Without any more, let's get into the top 9 things to do and foods to eat in Japan. So number 1, which might be obvious to you, but definitely was not obvious to me, if you are going to Japan and you are going to be jumping around and you know you're going to be jumping around from place to place, like Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, Sapporo, you're just gonna be kind of going all over the country, get a JR pass. Japan Railways essentially is the owner of the Shinkansen trains. The Shinkansen trains are the bullet trains that run all through Japan. And the JR pass will allow you to get on essentially any Shinkansen at any time. The reason that's important is because Shinkansens are extremely expensive. Each ticket for one ride on a Shinkansen can run you close to $100 US. The JR pass, while not cheap, will allow you to ride multiple trips, multiple journeys, and you will save hundreds of dollars by buying that pass. Possibly more important than that, get the JR pass before you go to Japan. I cannot stress that enough. For whatever reason, Japan charges a surcharge to purchase it in the country. I didn't know that. And when I got to Japan, I bought it in Japan. And I paid an extra, I think, $200, something like that, to buy it in the country, as opposed to buying it before I went and would have saved hundreds of dollars. So if you know you're going to be going to Japan, this does take a little bit of advanced planning. Buy the JR pass ahead of time, you will save a lot of money. All right, so number 2, along those lines, ride a Shinkansen. If you only do it one time, it's probably still worth it to get the JR pass if it's a long enough trip. But just do it at least once. It is an experience in and of itself. These things move so fast. You're talking like 280 to 320 kilometers per hour top speed, depending on which line you take in Japan. They are without a doubt the easiest way to get around the country. They're not always the shortest. Obviously you could fly from place to place, but by taking the train, you cut out all of the nonsense involved with getting to the airport, checking in, going through security, you know, getting your bag when you get off the plane, all of that stuff. With the Shinkansen, it's a train. You just show up, get on, get off. It's really easy, and they are extremely comfortable. Really big seats, tons of leg room. They are very, very quiet, and just an incredibly comfortable, smooth journey. Spectacular feat of engineering. Definitely ride the Shinkansen when you're in Japan. Okay, number 3 on my list of top 9 things to do in Japan. We're gonna move to food now. This is around eating etiquette. Food in Japan is not just food, okay? It's not just a means to eat or refuel. The dining experience is more than just the food itself. It's more than just the taste of the food. It's the presentation of the food. What does your area look like when you sit down? How is everything arranged for you? Where is your plate, your cup of green tea, the hot towel that they give you to wipe your hands? All of this to the Japanese is part of the dining experience, okay? And along with that, there are certain rules that should be followed when you're dining in Japan. One of those in particular has to do with the way that the food is consumed. Whether you're eating sushi or soba, this doesn't really apply if you're eating at like a conveyor belt sushi restaurant. If you're doing one of those, just go nuts, do whatever you want. But if you're going to like an actual sushi restaurant, soba restaurant, there are certain ways that you should actually consume the food. And this is a long-winded way of saying, just do whatever the chef tells you to do, basically. If they want you to put soy sauce on the sushi, go for it. But 9 times out of 10, if they want soy sauce on the sushi, they will put it on themselves. If they want wasabi on the sushi, the chef will put it on for you.
No sauce, right? Yeah.
It's customary that they do that. They want you to eat the sushi the way that they've prepared it, and to take a piece of sushi and dip it into a big bowl of soy sauce or put a bunch of wasabi on it is actually quite insulting to the chef. So don't do that. Eat the food the way that the chef wants you to eat it, the way that it's been prepared. With respect to soba noodles are handmade noodles from buckwheat flour. They can be served either cold or hot. In particular, if you get them cold, there are very set rules about how and when you should eat them. You need to eat them very quickly so they maintain their integrity and their texture at the right temperature. It's all very coordinated. So if you're lost, if you're confused, just ask the chef. They will tell you exactly what you need to do, and I promise you, if you just listen, you will have a fantastic dining experience anywhere in Japan. Okay, so number 4 on my list of top 9 things to do in Japan, staying on food, try an omakase sushi tasting. Don't miss out on this. In Japan, again, you can go to like the conveyor belt sushi restaurants and that will give you more of like your traditional Western style sushi. But sushi in Japan, if you're coming from the West, is not like sushi in the West. It's far more heavy on nigiri or sashimi. And if you go to a sushi restaurant, that's what you're gonna be eating mostly. Almost never going to be rolls. You'll get like one roll in your sushi tasting. So the omakase is basically like saying to the chef, just prepare me whatever you want, whatever is fresh for the day, whatever you think I should be eating. And so they will basically give you a plate with a combination of nigiri, sashimi, maybe a roll. It is fantastic. It is always better than trying to just order it on your own, and you'll save money that way too. Ordering each piece of sushi by itself can be very expensive. At a high-end place, you could be looking at anywhere from 500 to 1,000 yen per piece of nigiri. The omakase will give you like 8 to 10 pieces of nigiri, plus a roll and a bowl of miso soup normally, and green tea for in the range of like anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 yen. So do not miss out on an omakase tasting in Tokyo or anywhere in Japan. I promise you won't regret it. Okay, number 5 on my things not to miss when you're traveling in Japan. Going to Tokyo now. Tokyo's nightlife should not be underrated. If you think that New York City is the city that never sleeps, you haven't been to Tokyo yet. Tokyo never sleeps, and the nightlife is incredible. Do not miss out on seeing the neon lights of Shinjuku or Shibuya. An absolutely spectacular thing to do in Tokyo is to just kind of bar hop. Go out for the night and just go from bar to bar to bar. A really great place to do that is Golden Gai. Golden Gai is part of Shinjuku, and it's like a 1 block by 1 block area that contains hundreds, seemingly thousands of very, very tiny little bars, with each one having like anywhere from 4 to 10 seats in it, and they're all themed with different types of drinks and cocktails or beers, and they're stacked one on top of the other from the ground floor, second floor, third floor sometimes. So most of the bars in Golden Gai don't even open till 8 p.m. and they will stay open till 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning. To give you an idea of just how serious Tokyoites consider their nightlife. So when you're in Tokyo, fight the jet lag, leave your hotel, go out for the night in Tokyo. I promise you will not be disappointed. Okay, number 6 on my top experiences to do when you're in Japan, We're staying in Tokyo, and I want to talk about the yokochos, or the alleyways. Tokyo, it started as a fishing village. It was not the original capital of Japan, that was Kyoto, and Tokyo basically started as a lot of very large coastal cities have around the world as a small fishing village. It's now, of course, boomed into this major mega city that it is today, but it wasn't always like that. And the yokochos are kind of like a harken back to those older days when Tokyo had these narrow alleys full of drinking and eating establishments where you could just kind of wander around the alleys and drink and eat. It's similar to Golden Gai, but they're different. Golden Gai is more of like a section, it's like a whole area of Tokyo, whereas the yokochos are just literally one alley. So you would have like Omori Yokocho, which is the most famous one. I have a video from there, which I will link up top here. And there are hundreds of these all over Tokyo. Some are more famous than others, like Omori Yokocho in Shinjuku or Drunkard's Alley in Shibuya. You can go out and just try multiple different restaurants. They're all very, very casual. A lot of them are just like small yakitori joints or izakaya type of places, serving up grilled meats on skewers, grilled organ on skewers, soups, things like that. I really wanted to see these alleys. I wanted to go out and sit at the yakitori spots and eat grilled tripes and grilled heart and pork and, you know, in a tiny smoke-filled bar, and relatively cheap. Very, very fun, lively atmosphere, and a really, really good experience to do in Tokyo. You cannot miss the yokochos in Tokyo. Okay, number 7 on my top 9 experiences to do in Japan, try sake. That might sound like, duh, you're in Japan, but I really, before going to Japan, I think I had sake maybe once, maybe twice in my entire life. And it wasn't really like a special experience to me. But when I was in Japan, I had multiple glasses of sake, and they were all incredible. I don't know why. I don't know if it was just because I was in Japan. I don't know if it was because I had already had a bunch of sake and I was having more and it tasted really good. I don't know. But in Japan, for whatever reason, the sake was just so much better than what I remember having in the United States. There are multiple types of sake. It's actually a very, very complex liquor. So with all of that said, try it in Japan. Cold sake with an omakase sushi is like one of the greatest experiences. It is so pleasurable to just sit there and eat a huge plate of fantastic sushi and wash it all down with ice cold sake. It is literally bliss. Definitely try sake in Japan. All right, number 8 on my list of top 9 things to do in Japan. Eat vending machine ramen. So I had a lot of trouble with this because when I first arrived in Tokyo, I was completely lost. And I arrived into Tokyo Station late at night and I was starving after my flight, and I wanted to get ramen because there's an entire place in Tokyo Station that serves ramen. It's called Ramen Street. That video is right here. You can check it out. Little did I know that in Japan, and pretty much anywhere in Japan, when you go to order ramen, a lot of times it's at a vending machine. So what you'll do is you'll pay at the vending machine, either outside the restaurant or in the restaurant, and you'll get a little ticket. You'll then give that ticket inside to either the chefs or to a server that will tell them what ramen you ordered and what you're gonna eat. You would also order your drink from the vending machine. Like if you wanted a beer, you would order that at the vending machine as well, pay for it all kind of at the machine. If you don't read Japanese, a lot of times these will have pictures of the bowl of ramen or like a glass of beer. That's not always the case. I went to a place in Tokyo where there was no English at all. No one in the restaurant spoke English. The machine was only in Japanese. Google Translate is definitely going to help a lot in that situation, where you can kind of just like use the camera on your phone and kind of place it over the word, I guess, or words, and see what you're gonna eat. That doesn't always work. Sometimes you kind of just like don't really know what you're getting. Either way, it's an experience in and of itself. Don't miss out on eating vending machine ramen in Japan. Okay, number 9 on my list of top experiences to do in Japan, Tsukiji Fish Market. Now, prior to 2018, Tsukiji Fish Market was the largest wholesale fish market in the world. This is where every morning tuna auctions would take place. Starting at 5:30 in the morning, tuna from all over the world would come into Tsukiji frozen, and chefs, sushi chefs, restaurateurs would come to Tsukiji and bid on it. Toro, the fatty cuts of tuna, the medium grade tuna, lean tuna, this would all be bid on and bought. Typically by 9:30 in the morning, it would be over. That has now changed. Starting in 2018, Tokyo built a new market called Toyasu Market, where they still do the tuna auction, and it is now the main wholesale market, wholesale fish market for Tokyo, but you cannot anymore walk on the floors. Like prior to 2018 at Tsukiji, you could walk on the floors, basically like you could just like walk and explore the fish market, like while the auction was taking place. You could be in the market. Toyasu, you cannot do that anymore. Now you have to kind of like stand on a platform and look down onto the auction floor through like plexiglass. It's not a great experience. I would not even recommend it. I mean, it's worth going, but you literally have to get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. You have to get to Toyasu Market, and you're just gonna stand and look at the auction through glass. Like, that's not a great experience. Toyasu Market is 100% worth visiting. There are amazing sushi restaurants there, some of which were at Tsukiji and made the switch to Toyasu when the market was moved, 2 of which I'll put right here. Both of them are fantastic. But Tsukiji is probably your best bet if you're still looking for like a market vibe, because there's what's called the outer market at Tsukiji, which is the inner market was the wholesale part of the market where the tuna auction took place. The outer market is where you have sushi restaurants, sashimi restaurants that serve like kaisendan or bowls of sashimi, or basically rice bowls topped with sashimi, and then all kinds of shops selling anything from like souvenirs to food to, you know, produce and all kinds of goods. It does still maintain like an actual market vibe. It's a really great place to go for breakfast. Even though the wholesale market moved to Toyasu, it still is a great travel experience to go to Tsukiji Market in Tokyo, have sushi for breakfast. That is a travel experience in and of itself, even with the market being moved to Toyasu. So number 9 on my list, do not miss Tsukiji Market. Okay guys, so that wraps up my 9 experiences to do in Japan. I'm sure I missed a lot, and the point of this was not to give you 100 things to do in Japan. I could keep going, but I think these are like the top 9 things to kind of get you started on a trip to Japan, if you're thinking about going and thinking about planning it. And with that, I want to talk just very briefly about what you need to get into Japan right now. So, as we all know, COVID has transformed the world of travel. It will probably never be the same. Every country now has its rules and regulations for what you need to get in to travel. Japan is no different. Now, what I will say is if you're fully vaccinated, what that means is 3 doses of COVID-19 vaccine. Japan considers fully vaccinated to be 3 doses. That means a primary series, your first and second doses of Moderna or Pfizer, any other from the list of approved vaccines that Japan considers, plus at least 1 booster dose. That is fully vaccinated in the eyes of Japan. And you need to have the booster dose 14 days or more before you arrive in Japan. If you have that and you can prove that on a card or with a QR code, getting into Japan right now is pretty easy. You don't need anything else. You don't need any paperwork. You don't need a COVID test. You don't need to quarantine. You don't need to download any apps. When you show up at the airport, there's a QR code. You'll scan it, fill out a form that says what hotel you're staying at and your vaccine doses, and that's it. When you land at the airport, and I came through Narita in Tokyo, so I'm not going to say that this is the same everywhere, but when I landed, I got this form right here. This says quarantine on it. Don't be freaked out. You don't have to quarantine. The whole time that I was in the airport, I was freaking out that they handed me this piece of paper that said that I would have to quarantine. You don't. They just haven't updated it since when you actually did have to quarantine in Japan. And so anyone who gets one of these blue pieces of paper does not have to quarantine. So that's the process, to be honest, that's it. You literally just have to be fully vaccinated. No COVID test, no pre-arrival paperwork, no pre-arrival app, nothing. You just show up, you fill out what they tell you to fill out, and you're in. Boom, just like that. There was a visa, I think that they instituted during COVID, that's been rescinded. It's all over. If you're unvaccinated, yeah, none of this applies. If you're unvaccinated, you're gonna have to get a COVID test. You'll probably have to quarantine like the whole 9 yards. Japan is easy to get into, and it is a great place to travel. And I saw quite a number of tourists when I was there. People are going back to Japan. It's very exciting. They were like one of the last countries in the world to open from COVID. And so for me, it was kind of like, okay, well, if Japan is open, then maybe finally this whole thing is behind us. But anyway, I'm gonna end this vlog here. I hope you guys got a lot out of this. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to just write them in the comments below. I try to answer as many as I can. Send me a message on my Instagram at @travelfar_eatlocal. And with that, guys, I will say goodbye from California. Stay tuned for new videos coming up from a new country. Thank you very much to everyone who has answered the poll so far. I'm gonna keep it a secret as to where I'm going for now, but stay tuned for new videos from a new country coming very soon. Thank you so much for your support, guys. Thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed to the channel over these last couple weeks. Can't thank you enough. See you guys very soon. Bye.